What if I told you the biggest reason men die, on average, 6 years earlier than women, has nothing to do with smoking, drinking, or dangerous jobs? What if the real answer is hidden inside your DNA, and it's something women naturally activate while most men never even realize it exists? There's a powerful gene in your body, often called the longevity gene. It fights cancer, repairs damage inside your cells, and helps you survive life's toughest stresses. Women get a head start because their hormones turn this gene on. Men, on the other hand, are left behind, not because they can't activate it, but because they never learn how. Imagine this. The secret switch that could add years, even decades to your life is already inside you. And yet, every single day, millions of men unknowingly shut it down with the wrong habits. Welcome to the Nutrition Institute. Today, we're going to expose the shocking truth about why men die younger and, more importantly, how anyone can flip the genetic switch for a longer, stronger, healthier life. So before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and support the channel, because what you're about to discover could change not only how long you live, but how well you live. When I first heard that men die on average 6 years earlier than women, I thought I already knew the answer. Men smoke more, men drink more, men take on dangerous jobs and push themselves to extremes. And while all of that is true, the deeper I looked into the science, the more I realized those explanations barely scratch the surface. The real reason men die younger than women lies hidden in our biology, tucked away in the very blueprint of our DNA. And once I uncovered it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. At the center of this mystery is something scientists call the FOXO3 gene. That might sound technical, but the concept is surprisingly simple. Think of FOXO3 as the body's built-in longevity switch. When it's active, this gene protects you in ways most of us never imagine. It helps prevent cancer by keeping damaged cells from spiraling out of control. It repairs DNA, fixing the tiny breaks that happen inside our bodies every single day. It even acts like a shield against stress, giving your system the resilience to handle the physical and emotional pressures of life. If aging is a battle, FOXO3 is one of the strongest weapons we have. Here's the twist that hit me like a shock. Women naturally activate this gene more than men do. And the reason comes down to hormones, specifically estrogen. Estrogen doesn't just influence fertility and reproduction. It's also the key that turns on FOXO3, the longevity gene. This means that, biologically, women have an advantage built into their systems. They carry a kind of natural insurance policy that protects them from disease, strengthens their resilience, and, in the long run, helps them outlive men. When I thought about it this way, it almost felt unfair. Why would nature give women such a powerful advantage? But then the answer became clear. Evolution has always placed survival pressure on women because they carry the role of reproduction. Ensuring women live longer meant ensuring the survival of children, families, and the human species itself. In other words, nature designed women with a kind of extra layer of protection, while men were left a step behind. The data backs this up. Across the globe, women consistently outlive men. In places like Okinawa, in Japan or Sardinia, in Italy, regions famous for producing centenarians, people who live beyond 100 years, you'll find a pattern. The cultures themselves may differ. The diets and lifestyles may not be identical, but what connects them is a higher natural expression of this very gene. And every time I read about someone turning 105 or 110, I can't help but wonder how much of their secret is hiding inside FOXO3. For me, this revelation shifted everything I thought I knew about aging. Suddenly, it wasn't just about whether you smoke or drink. It wasn't only about exercise or diet. It was about whether you could unlock this hidden code written inside your DNA. And if women have the key, what does that mean for men? Are we doomed to shorter lives simply because our bodies don't naturally trigger FOXO3 in the same way? That's the part of the story that gave me hope, because while it's true women have a natural advantage, the FOXO3 gene doesn't belong to them alone. Men carry it too. Every single one of us does. The difference is men need to find other ways to switch it on. And when you think about that, it suddenly reframes the conversation about aging and longevity. It's not about being helpless in the face of biology. It's about discovering the tools and habits that allow us to take control of our own genetic destiny. This realization also made me reflect on how often we accept the idea that men are simply supposed to die earlier. It's become almost a cultural assumption, one of those things people shrug about as if it's inevitable. But the more I studied FOXO3, the more I questioned that assumption. Maybe men don't have to die younger. Maybe, just maybe, the 6-year gap isn't destiny at all. What's even more fascinating is how FOXO3 connects to our ability to adapt. Historically, humans have survived extreme conditions, bitter cold, scorching heat, periods of famine, physical hardships that tested every ounce of strength. FOXO3 is part of the system that allowed us to survive those challenges. It is literally a survival gene sculpted by millennia of evolution. Women activate it naturally through estrogen, but men can tap into it too, especially when exposed to stressors that mimic those ancient hardships. That's why things like fasting, exercise, and environmental stress play such a huge role in triggering it. But before getting into those strategies, I had to sit with the bigger realization. For years, we've been taught to look at health as a checklist. Don't smoke, eat your vegetables, exercise, and you'll be fine. What FOXO3 shows us is that longevity is not just about avoiding bad habits. It's about learning to actively engage the body's built-in defenses. It's about recognizing that the difference between a life cut short and a life extended might come down to whether or not we've learned how to flip a genetic switch. And that thought, for me, was both terrifying and exciting. Terrifying because it means millions of people could be living shorter lives simply because they never discovered this hidden mechanism. Exciting because it means the possibility of change is already inside us. We're not waiting for a new drug or some miracle breakthrough. The tool is there. The only question is whether we choose to use it. So when you hear that men die 6 years earlier than women, don't just think about cigarettes, alcohol, or risky jobs. Think about FOXO3. Think about the quiet, invisible advantage women carry and the possibility that men can claim it too if they're willing to change the way they live. Because once you understand this gene, you realize aging isn't just about counting the years you lose. It's about discovering the years you can gain. The moment I realized that women's advantage in longevity came from the FOXO3 gene, I couldn't stop asking myself one question: if men also carry this gene, how can we turn it on? That question took me down a fascinating path, because the answer isn't locked away in a laboratory or available only through some expensive treatment. The triggers for this gene are hidden in plain sight in the foods we eat, the way we move, and even the way we expose ourselves to the environment around us. The first discovery that struck me was how powerful certain foods are at flipping this genetic switch. Take astaxanthin, for example. It's the red pigment that gives salmon, shrimp, and lobster their vibrant color. Scientists have found it to be one of the most potent antioxidants on Earth, thousands of times stronger than vitamin C. When I first read that, it sounded exaggerated, almost like marketing hype. But the more I looked into it, the more evidence I saw. A Astaxanthin thing doesn't just protect your skin or your eyes, it penetrates deeply, shielding nerve cells, the cardiovascular system, and most importantly, helping to activate the FOXO3 gene. That means a simple serving of salmon isn't just dinner. It's a signal to your DNA to fight harder, adapt better, and live longer. Then there's sulforaphane, a compound most people have never heard of, yet it's abundant in foods like broccoli, cabbage, and other cruciferous vegetables. I'll admit, broccoli was never my favorite growing up, but when I learned that sulforaphane can influence the body's detox pathways, lower inflammation, and stimulate FOXO3, I started to see it differently. It's not just a vegetable. It's like a toolkit for your genetic resilience. And interestingly, even those who don't eat vegetables directly can get some of these compounds secondhand through grass-fed meats and dairy. That connection between diet, environment, and genetics fascinates me because it shows how tightly woven our biology is with what we consume. Another powerful activator is EGCG, the antioxidant in green tea. Most of us know green tea is healthy, but few realize just how deep its effects go. EGC influences blood sugar, reduces inflammation, and provides anti-cancer benefits. But on the genetic level, it actually signals FOXO3 to turn on. Drinking a cup of tea suddenly feels less like a daily ritual and more like tapping into a centuries-old practice that scientists are only now beginning to fully understand. The same goes for resveratrol, found in grapes and red wine, which has long been linked to longevity. Behind all the hype about wine and heart health is this simple truth. Compounds like resveratrol communicate directly with our genes, telling them to protect and repair rather than decay. Food, however, is just one part of the story. What really surprised me was how much our lifestyle, how we eat, how we move, and how we stress our bodies can activate FOXO3. Intermittent fasting, for example, is often talked about as a weight loss tool. But what's really happening goes deeper. By restricting eating windows, we're mimicking ancient survival situations. When humans went through cycles of feast and famine, those cycles pressured our bodies to adapt, and in response, genes like FOXO3 were triggered. Even more powerful than intermittent fasting is prolonged fasting. 48 to 72 hours without food. It sounds extreme, and for many it is, but research shows this level of fasting has a dramatic effect on FOXO3, almost like hitting a reset button on longevity. Closely tied to fasting is the production of ketones, the fuel our bodies make when we run low on carbohydrates. Ketones are more than just an alternative energy source. They're chemical messengers that tell the body to adapt, conserve, and protect. And one of their biggest roles, activating FOXO3, when I learned that, it reframed the whole conversation about low-carb diets. It wasn't just about losing weight or balancing blood sugar. It was about speaking directly to my genes. Exercise plays a role too, especially high-intensity interval training. I used to think exercise was just about burning calories or building muscle, but it's much more. Short bursts of extreme effort followed by recovery push the body into controlled stress. That stress, in turn, lights up FOXO3 as if the gene recognizes the challenge and prepares the body to handle more. It's the same principle with cold exposure and heat therapy. Jumping into an icy bath or sweating in a sauna isn't just about discipline or relaxation. These extremes recreate the conditions our ancestors once faced: harsh winters, blazing summers, and our bodies respond by activating survival pathways. Among those is FOXO3. One of the most overlooked triggers, though, is sunlight. In a world where we're told to avoid UV exposure at all costs, it's easy to forget that humans evolved under the sun. While too much exposure is dangerous, moderate sunlight plays a critical role in activating FOXO3, it's as if our bodies are wired to take cues from the natural environment: light, heat, scarcity, and adjust our internal systems to survive. The more I pieced these discoveries together, the more a picture emerged. Activating FOXO3 isn't about one magic food or one miracle routine. It's about a combination of stresses and supports. Nutrients signal the gene to repair and defend. Environmental challenges like fasting, exercise, heat, and cold push the body to adapt. Together, they create a balance of pressure and support that keeps FOXO3 alive and active. What this taught me is that longevity isn't passive. You don't just wait and hope to live longer. You don't leave it up to chance or blame your genetics. You participate in it. Every decision, what you eat for lunch, whether you go for that run, whether you step into the sun or hide indoors, becomes a vote either for or against your longevity gene. That realization changed the way I think about daily choices. Suddenly, eating salmon, drinking tea, or fasting for a day feels less like a health hack and more like communicating directly with my DNA. And maybe the most powerful part of this is the sense of control it gives back. For men who statistically face shorter lifespans, FOXO3 doesn't have to remain a silent gene. It can be awakened, strengthened, and used. The very same biological advantage that gives women a head start can be earned by men through intentional habits. To me, that's a message of hope. It tells us we're not bound by the cards nature dealt. We can rewrite part of the script. The FOXO3 gene is proof that longevity isn't just about biology, it's about choice. And every time I look at the research, I see the same pattern. The things that activate this gene are within reach. Food from the earth, movement, stress applied in smart, controlled ways, sunlight, rest. It's not science fiction or a far off dream. It's real, it's practical, and it's already inside us. As inspiring as it is to learn how to switch on the FOXO3 gene, the truth is just as important to face. Many of us are unknowingly shutting it down every single day. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how much salmon we eat or how often we exercise. If the gene is blocked, our body loses its ability to fight, adapt, and endure. That's the sobering reality. And once I understood it, I began to see the modern world through a different lens. One of the most powerful inhibitors of FOXO3 is excess insulin. At first glance, that might not sound alarming. It's just a hormone that regulates blood sugar, right? But in today's world, with diets overloaded with processed carbs and sugar, insulin levels in many people are constantly elevated. This chronic state, often leading to type 2 diabetes, doesn't just damage blood vessels or strain the pancreas. It directly silences FOXO3. In simple terms, high insulin flips the longevity switch off. To me, that realization was like uncovering the dark side of modern eating. Every sugary snack, every overfilled plate isn't just adding weight. It's literally telling your DNA to age faster. Chronic inflammation is another silent killer of FOXO3. While inflammation is part of the body's defense system, designed to heal and protect, when it becomes constant, it turns destructive. I started to think about how many people live in a state of low-grade inflammation without even realizing it, caused by stress, processed foods, pollution, or lack of movement. That constant background fire wears down the body and prevents FOXO3 from doing its protective work. What struck me most was how easy it is to ignore this kind of damage because it's invisible. You don't feel inflammation until it erupts into disease. But by then, the longevity gene may already have been suppressed for years. Stress adds another layer. The body is built to handle stress in bursts. And when it comes in cycles, it can even strengthen us. But chronic stress, the kind that lingers day after day, fueled by work, money worries, or endless digital noise, has the opposite effect. It wears the body down, depletes resilience, and again, switches off FOXO3. I found this almost ironic. The very gene that helps us adapt to stress can only thrive when stress is short and manageable. When it becomes constant, the gene shuts down. It made me realize how crucial recovery, rest, and balance really are. Without them, even the strongest survival mechanisms fall apart. Then there's the problem of overfeeding and inactivity, two sides of the same coin. Modern life makes it easy to eat constantly and move very little. But our genes were never designed for this. FOXO3 evolved to help us endure scarcity, famine, and physical challenges. When food is abundant and the body is idle, the gene goes dormant. It doesn't recognize a need to protect us because the signals of survival, fasting, movement, environmental stress are missing. I couldn't help but think how unnatural our lifestyles have become compared to the conditions that shaped human evolution. Instead of triggering resilience, we've created an environment of excess that silences it. Environmental toxins add another layer of concern. Heavy metals like mercury and aluminum, often found in polluted air, contaminated food, or even household products, interfere with FOXO3. Electromagnetic fields from devices, cell phones, computers, constant Wi-Fi also appear to disrupt it. And perhaps most troubling are endocrine disruptors, chemicals in pesticides, plastics, and other products that mimic estrogen. At first I thought, wait, if estrogen activates FOXO3, wouldn't mimicking it help? But the reality is the opposite. These fake estrogens confuse the body, block natural signaling, and end up shutting down the gene instead. It was chilling to realize how many of these disruptors surround us every day, often invisible, baked into the very products we rely on. All of this made me ask a hard question. If FOXO3 is so powerful, why are we living in ways that suppress it? The answer, I think, lies in the tension between modern convenience and ancient biology. Our bodies were built for a world of scarcity, challenge, and natural rhythms. But the modern world offers abundance, comfort, and artificial substitutes. Every step away from our evolutionary design makes it harder for FOXO3 to do its job. And the cost isn't just shorter lifespans, it's weaker resilience, higher disease risk, and a reduced ability to adapt to life stresses. What gives me hope, though, is that awareness creates choice. Once you know what shuts the gene down, you can begin to protect it. Avoiding excess sugar and processed foods isn't just about weight. It's about keeping FOXO3 alive. Managing stress isn't just about feeling better. It's about ensuring your DNA stays in defense mode. Choosing clean food, minimizing exposure to plastics and toxins, and moving your body regularly aren't just lifestyle tips. They're strategies for preserving the very gene that can extend your life. The bigger picture here is profound. FOXO3 doesn't just teach us how to live longer, it teaches us how to live in harmony with our biology. It's a reminder that we can't outsmart nature by piling on conveniences, chemicals, or shortcuts. Longevity doesn't come from hacking the system. It comes from respecting it. And when we fail to respect it, we don't just miss out on extra years, we actively cut them short. So when I think about the future, I see a choice. We can continue down the path of modern excess, suppressing FOXO3 with sugar, stress, toxins, and inactivity, or we can reclaim the practices that align with our biology, reactivating the gene and unlocking the resilience nature gave us. It's not easy. It requires discipline, awareness, and sometimes discomfort. But every small step toward protecting FOXO3 is a step toward rewriting the story of aging. The truth is, Women may have been handed an advantage, but men are not doomed. FOXO3 belongs to all of us, and whether it stays silent or sings depends less on biology and more on the choices we make every single day. That, to me, is both the warning and the promise. When I step back and look at everything I've learned about the FOXO3 gene, I can't help but feel both humbled and empowered. For years, I thought longevity was something you either inherited or didn't. Some people just had good genes and others weren't as lucky. But what this journey has taught me is that while biology sets the stage, it doesn't dictate the entire play. We have far more influence over our lifespan and the quality of those years than we realize. The FOXO3 gene is proof of that. It shows us that aging isn't just a slow decline we're forced to accept. It's a process we can shape. Women may naturally activate this gene more because of estrogen, but men aren't locked out of the game. Through nutrition, fasting, exercise, exposure to natural stressors like heat, cold, and sunlight, every one of us can flip this genetic switch. To me, that changes everything. It means longevity isn't about luck. It's about daily choices. But the other side of the lesson is just as important. Modern life is full of trapped sugar, stress, toxins, inactivity that quietly shut FOXO3 down. I realize now how easy it is to drift into habits that steal years from us, not all at once, but slowly, silently. That's the part that really hit me on a personal level. Every skipped workout, every processed meal, every restless night, it's not just about feeling worse tomorrow. It's about weakening my body's ability to fight for my future. The biggest takeaway for me is balance. We don't need to live like monks or chase extremes, but we do need to respect the rhythms our biology was built for. Eat real food, move often, rest deeply, face stress in bursts, not in endless waves, align with nature instead of trying to outsmart it. That's the formula for activating FOXO3 and, more importantly, for living a life that's not just longer, but fuller. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this: you are not powerless. The secret to longevity isn't hiding in some distant future breakthrough. It's already inside you, waiting to be awakened. And the choices you make today determine whether that gene stays silent or becomes your strongest ally. So now, I want to hear from you. If you could make just one simple change to protect and activate your longevity gene, what would it be? Eating differently, moving more, managing stress? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to see what step you take first. And if you found this valuable, don't forget to subscribe to the Nutrition Institute. Your support not only helps this channel grow, but it fuels the motivation to keep bringing you insights that could change the way you live and how long you live